So, it works? Okay. To begin the story, again, it was in the 60s, like a half century ago, that I was that time young, and I was in under Soviet regime, which meant assimilation. The majority of people of my generation were intermarried. By the way, I apologize for my bad English. I am Israeli, so if you would like, I would I'll enjoy speak Hebrew. Everybody understands Hebrew?
No.
So I hope that my English is better than your Hebrew. Otherwise, anyway, people simply got intermarried. It means that in my place, I was originally not from Russia, Latvia, but Latvia at the time was occupied by the Russians. So in my capital of Latvia were some million of residents and some 30,000 Jews. So you can statistically understand what a possibility for me to meet a Jewish girl. Almost impossible, you know. We're all going around. For we had no social centers, no social activities together. And the aim of the authorities at that time just get us assimilated. Intermarriage, that Am Yisrael would disappear. We had no schools, no high schools, no yeshivas. And obviously, we were atheists, which means it is not that we would say there is not a Ribbon Shel Olam. Nobody simply taught us that there is something like that. So, a miracle happened, and it's a long story. It's like first 50 pages, which I will make it short. It's a miracle indeed, that somehow among hundreds of thousands of my peers, I and a small group of friends decided to establish an underground Jewish movement, to teach and educate Jews, to make them remember that we are Jewish, that we belong. It was illegal. And certainly, if it would be found out, we would be arrested. But, you know, the joy to discover that I am Jewish, not means, you know, I was in my ID always written as a Jew, but it is different to know that you are Jewish and discover what does it mean, the meaning of being Jewish, the joy of being a Jew. So, finding it, I was so glad to give it to others, you know. When you love something, you share. So it was my love, being Jewish, and I share with other friends that I am Jewish. But finally, I come to understanding that there is no way to rebuild the Jewish nation without any possibility, you know, to work openly, and everything was underground. So there were maybe hundreds of members of our movement, but as I told, there were thousands and thousands of people that simply couldn't reach and got intermarried and lost. So another miracle happened, that in one of our underground ulpanim arrived a new student, that he himself was a former Russian pilot that served in the Russian army, a major. So when he saw us, he suggested a beautiful plan to run away from Soviet Russia. He told, you know, I know how to fly airplanes, and if we will be able to take over a Russian plane, flying inside, you know, you studied geography, right? You know that Russia is twice as big as America, so there are flights inside to Russia. And we planned that we can buy tickets on a small airplane, and then we found a good flight that would bring us close to the border in Finland, over there in Scandinavia. For Russia has a common border with Finland. And when this airplane would land in a forest, we could simply drag out the pilots, leave them over in the forest, And then the pilot, Mr. Dimshitz, would take us over the border as far as, according the agreement between Russia and Finland, Finland would give away immediately everybody that would try to escape without any checking or whatever. We had to have a longer flight to go over the Baltic Sea and land in Sweden. And then in Sweden we planned to have a press conference and to call upon world Jewry, American Jewry, to join our struggle, to let our people go. You certainly heard this slogan, "Let my people go." That time it wouldn't exist. Nothing like that. The famous Nobel Prize winner Elie Wiesel visited that time Russia, and he wrote a book called "Silent Jewry." But we are not silent. We would like to speak out. So it was our primary task to go and to publicize our struggle, and then to go to Israel. Also, we understood that it is, should be considered as a hijacking, and it is a crime. So we expected to serve some 5-6 years in a prison in Sweden, and then permitted to go to Israel. It was a price that we were ready to pay for going to Israel. So other people would say it is dangerous, you know, you may be arrested and you may be killed, and your airplane even in air can be landed by Soviet air forces. But again, you know, we were mad. It means in a good meaning of the word, mad with our love to Israel. It was our passion, our dream. So it turned out later, we arrived finally to the airport. It was announced boarding. We start marching, going, all of us, to a certain airplane, for it is a small local place, so you can reach it by foot. And then all of a sudden, we noticed that our pilot is missing. So everybody looked around, you know, if there is no pilot, so how can we get over? And maybe we felt maybe he's already arrested, or maybe he got afraid and ran away. But I decided I will try my best to find him. So I ran back, for I saw him coming to the airport, and I figured maybe he wouldn't heard the announcement on the radio. So I come to the place that I met, I saw him. Indeed, he said he's with his wife and his two small girls, and he played guitar. They had sandwiches, it was morning. I got so angry, I told, "Mark, we are on the way to Eretz Israel and you are eating sandwiches." So he told, you know, the boarding had to start 9 o'clock, and now it is only 8. So there's something wrong in it. He told, "I don't like that." I told him, "Okay, you were used to Soviet army, everything is there accurate, but it's, you know, it's not the army, everything can be changed." So he told, "Okay, I follow, run back to the friends and tell them that I'm joining, let them board." So you can imagine as excited I was before that I am fighting for the freedom of my nation, bringing freedom. Now I was excited twice, you know. I felt that almost soon I will arouse in air from the excitement that I am bringing the pilot. So when back to the airfield, entered, I was beaten, thrown on the ground, my hands bound. I understood that it is what we expected, that we are arrested. And then when up on my feet, I heard shootings. I looked around, they shot at Mr. Dimshitz. He's alive in Rehovot. It was a very simple wound, but a lot of blood. And imagine a man is going, a lot of blood on his face, and his wife crying, and the small girls, you know, real tragedy. I felt everything is lost. Imagine, the moment before that, we were out to Israel. All of a sudden, everything ended. So we were taken to questioning, and we were told that we are being charged by state treason, and trying to harm state security. So if it's true, we shall get death penalty for that. You know, I was not so glad to get death penalty. I was a young student, and I felt, you know, to go through the interrogations and then maybe to get death penalty and sit in a cell and expect when they will take you to execute you. I thought, it is not me, I can do it, you know. I know there are big Jewish heroes like Yehuda Maccabi, Yosef Mendelovich, Mordechai Mendelovich, but I cannot do it, you know, simply. But, you know, nobody asked me, I had to do it. Anyway, a lot of people were arrested. Tens of them, not only us, our group, as well our students, that we taught Hebrew and tradition, whatever. And you know, if you don't know, but I will tell you now, if a lot of people are arrested, there is always a weak link in the chain. Somebody would broke and give testimonies and cooperate, so finally everybody spoke. And only me not, you know, I felt so bad to give away names that other friends would be arrested because of me. So they thought that I'm maybe crazy if I am not afraid of KGB investigation, and they sent me to a mental institution. It was another torture, for they told me that if I wouldn't admit guilty and cooperate, they will confess that I am insane, and they will treat me with medicals and injections, and I will become, as we say in Yiddish, a stick of flesh, you know, garnished. You're just a crazy man. I was afraid of it. But Ribono Shel Olam, Baruch Hashem, helped me. I was out after a month of this torture, out back to the prison, and then they changed the game. They understood that they cannot break me just you know, intimidating me or trying to torture me. So I was brought to office of the investigator. It was a different man. He was very quiet, very polite, and he told me, Yosef, I am looking at you. You're a young man, you know. I have sorry for you. You will lose your life. Why are you so stubborn, you know? Admit that you are guilty. You know, he would tell me, you cannot break with your head the wall. You will break your head. So be realistic. And then you will get only 7, 8 years of imprisonment. And out you will be still a young man. You can start your life again. And I felt, maybe he is right, you know. Maybe this time I have to be realistic, you know. I have to understand the situation. There is no way out. And then he would tell me something else. He told me, I am looking at you. You say you are Jewish? You don't look Jewish at all, you know. Oh, you are a regular Russian guy. You know, you look at me, you know, with my beard and pants and say, how could he tell it? But I was not that type of a man that time. I was a regular student, and I looked like every student. And you know, better in America, if you try to behave as a non-Jews, you can do it smoothly. Your language is better than others. My Russian was even better than all other Russians, and I was read in Russian literature. So, and he told me, you got our Russian education. In fact, you know, in your ID is written a Jew. That's all. But indeed, you belong to our Russian culture. So stop it, you know. It doesn't, he would say, it doesn't make sense to give all your life for something that you don't know. What you know about Judaism, what you never been in Israel, and you going to die for Israel. It's, you know, paradox. So, you know, I was sent back to my cell. Going around, I thought to myself, indeed, what a Jew I am, you know. I had no Jewish education. I have hardly a concept what is being Jewish. So what to do? And I felt it is like an experience. He tried to seduce me, to tell something logical. But you know, love and passion has nothing to do with logic. So I told to myself, I have to be strong. For I was already ready to escape, to admit that it's lost, I am not Jewish. It's the easy way to do. So I have to keep myself safe, not to admit it. I decided I will build a wall between me and him, make him to understand that I am Jewish. So how to do it? I will go around and around. And then I told every Jew is covering his head. What about me? How can I cover my head? I have no yarmulke. In fact, I had, when being arrested, a yarmulke in my pocket, figuring that when I arrived to Israel, I will put a yarmulke on my head. But it was confiscated. So I had a handkerchief like this. All people have, except you have tissues. We have handkerchiefs. So I had a handkerchief, and I made knots on the handkerchief like that, in 4 angles. I put on my head like a kippah, and when escorted to the officer, he looked at me and he told, "What's going on? You are really crazy. Take away this piece of cloth. What you put it on your head?" So I told him, "See, it's our Jewish tradition. Every Jew is covering his head." And then I gave him a whole speech about Jewish history, for I was more or less instructive. In our underground, we studied Jewish history and taught Jewish history. So he was very angry. And he told me, "You think you are smart? I tell you, you are stupid. For you are digging your grave. For this cheeky behavior, you will certainly get death penalty. Now, go back take him back to his cell. Let him think again." When I was back to my cell, and imagine the cell was very small, like that, I was going around and thinking, "Oh, he is angry. He stopped telling me that he is my big Russian brother. So I decided on the right way. What else can I do?" I start thinking, what else a Jew would do in a prison? Have you suggestions? What could I do? No? No ideas? Daven, right? Sure, Also, you don't know exactly how, but it is a normal situation. When a human being, even non-Jewish, in a hospital, in a jail, who asks God, "Help me." But I was a Hebrew teacher, so I did know some 500 Hebrew words. And then, as a member of underground movement, I would come on holidays to the synagogue. So I had a small concept how the prayers are about, and even I remember some lines from Shmoneh Esrei. So I wrote my tefillah, and I would say, "Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah," etc. And then, in the end, I would tell, "Ribono Shel Olam, take Am Yisrael out from Russia. Take care of my father and my 2 sisters. And don't forget me. I cannot stand here anymore. It's too bitter for me to be here." So I had already my tefillah, but I had no mizrach, I was aware that in a synagogue you were praying to, where is in this basement room, where is the mizrach? They had a small window with a lot of grates on it. You hardly can find out, whereas day and night, not Mizrach and Ma'ariv. So I decided, all of a sudden, I recollected that I read about Daniel HaTzadik when he was in Bavel, without knowing the right direction to Yerushalayim. You remember what's in Daniel? Now it is a test for you. Did you read Daniel, Sefer Daniel? He would come up on the 2nd floor. It's written Aliyat Agag, open the window, standing and direct his heart towards Yerushalayim. And it's, by the way, in the Shulchan Aruch. Read it. So, the man knows a lot, more than you. So, but, it comes together as you, during a test, you enter the room, you say, "Oh, I don't remember anything." But when you start thinking, things start coming together. So I stood at the window, although I couldn't open it. At least I stood at the window, and believe me, I directed my heart not only to Yerushalayim, Kodesh Kodashim. And I would say, "Ana Hashem, Hoshiana." Even not mentioning Slichana, what kind of Tzlocha, what do you know? Just Oshiana, that's all. So, in a couple of days of this practice, guards entered rushing in my cell, caught me at the wall, for I would stand, you don't have here a wall, so I can show you, but you can imagine that I'm standing and praying like this, like every Jew, touching the wall. So they told me, we notice you all the time you are touching the wall, like you are trying to take out a brick, maybe to run away from the prison. And then they checked the grates, it was intact as well. So what's the reason you are standing and the wall and so all the time you're touching this wall? They made a search in my pockets. Here's a letter. You try to pass over your letter to your friends through the window. And I would tell you, as crazy I was, but I never could imagine to pass over a letter through a closed window. So what's that? So what's that? I won't tell you. Okay, they took my my letter. Later, I was escorted to my Russian brother with my letter on his table. He was very angry. He told me, "What, Yosef? You became religious? It is a prayer. They translated me. You pray. Who made you religious? You never been religious. Who influenced you?" Imagine a Jewish boy sitting in a cell, and some transformation are going with him on. So certainly there is somebody that influenced him. Who is that? Ribono shel olam. But he wouldn't believe, you know. So I told you that I'm Jewish, and every Jew is religious, which is true. Yeah, we have neshama shenatata b'Torah. Every Jew has his Jewish neshama, and it's how he's religious. Anyway, he was even more angry, and he told me, send him back to this cell, to this basement room, make him think again. The last effort. When I was back to my cell, I was so glad. He stopped telling me this kind of that I have to be realistic and that I am not Jewish. He simply is angry with me, and I love when the enemy hates me. For it's exactly, you know, he doesn't play, he hates me, I hate him, that's all. Anyway, I thought about something else new. There you have a suggestion of davening. So what else can do a man, a Jew in a prison? You know, praying, yes. Covering, what else?
Sing.
Sing, right. What else? Shabbos. Shabbos, right? Shabbat. Shabbat HaKodesh. So also, I had nothing to, you know, to do with Sabbath, but at least it was a Friday, and I decided at least to clean my cell to prepare it to Shabbat. As we say, Echsher mitzvah, mitzvah. And I believe you help your mother to prepare Shabbat, you do something for Shabbat, it's already Shabbat, it's already mitzvah Shabbos. So I asked for a piece of cloth, some water, and I rubbed the walls to make them clean. And then all of a sudden, I felt between the bricks something sharp. I looked at it, it was a piece of a nail. Oh, I thought, beautiful, now I can scratch with a nail 2 candles on the wall, and I can imagine like benching licht. Wow, you know. Also, to say, I never saw my mother, Alea Shalom, benching licht, for she was not religious. But we had in our underground a postcard from Israel depicting a woman benching licht. So I did know the brocha, and now I prepare myself to Shabbos. You know, there is a famous story, Yosef, Shomer Shabbat. So I prepared everything. Every day I would put aside a small piece of bread, for we would get a bread ratio every day, some slices of bread. So I would put aside a slice of bread. So I collected at the Erev Shabbos a lot of bread, at least to be set during meals. And then I cut my my yarmulke in two pieces. One was to cover the challahs, and another still to cover my head. And then I made these candles, and I blessed. And when I removed my hands, a miracle happened. I saw flames going up in the candles, you know. I looked at it. I couldn't believe. I got so excited. I start thinking, right? Am Yisrael Chai. David Melech Yisrael Chai v'kayam. Eretz zavat chalav udvash. And also the place was very small. I couldn't really dance. I could only jump here and there. And then a guard knocked at the door and told me, "You crazy man, stop making noise. You disturb other prisoners." I told, you know, it's Shabbat today. It's a big Jewish holidays. Yeah, we know you are a religious man, but don't disturb other prisoners. And I felt, you know, that he is jealous. You know, he would step from one door to another door, watching the prisoners. You know, in every door they have a small hole to watch you. So he would look in one certain cell. Here's a prisoner sitting, you know, without any expectations. What else can help him? Another one, and all of a sudden, he looked to my cell, and he couldn't believe, you know. And then he's dancing and thinking. Also, he didn't know that I can expect death or life sentence. Anyway, you know, and I believe he would say, what a big Am Yisrael is, that even in a jail, he can rejoice Shabbos. So, the interrogation was towards the end, and then brought to the court. They expected us being broken. For, as I told you, some people, some friends, give away names. Other people were arrested. It meant for them that we are broken. We will cooperate. What they would expect from us, just, you know, to admit that we are guilty, to blame American Jewry, world Zionism in infecting us with strange ideas, and then call upon a Russian Jewry, stop any national activity. Yeah? Like using us against our goals. So the first to speak was the pilot himself, and certainly he expected this penalty, for he was a ringleader, and he had something to lose, for his wife was in prison, and two small girls. So they asked him, "Mr. Dimshitz, you were a Russian officer, a major in Soviet army, and you got high education, and you were a member of Communist Party. How at all you come to the idea of betraying your Russian motherland?" So according the script, I believe he had to come up and confess and ask to pardon him, whatever. So he stood up and he told, "I accuse you, Soviet Russian government, in trying to eliminate our Jewish nation. You closed all schools, all yeshivas, all national activities. You tried to assimilate us. And even your policy against Israel has nothing to do with foreign policy. You simply try to distract a Jewish country. That's all. It's why I had to do it, and I'm glad and I'm privileged or whatever, you know." They were astonished. They couldn't believe that the man that expected death penalty was that courageous to come up with this strong declaration. So obviously, all others followed him. And it was the end of their scheme. They understood they're losing. I was almost the last to being asked for. They did know that they can't expect anything about myself. So anyway, they asked me, "You Mendelovich, how you try to escape and whatever?" I told simply, you know, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave Eretz Israel to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and I am their grandchild, so it is my place. I have to be there. Then another man from a jury jumped up and told, "In vain you asked Mendelovich, you know, don't you know he's a fanatic religious man. We cannot understand how this man studied in our university, you know, and he's not interested in anything except of Torah, mitzvahs, and Eretz Israel, you know. Certainly he cursed me to tell the judges that I have to have a penalty. But in my ears, it was like a bless, you know. As we say, as Bilam mikalel, nimtza mevarech. If Bilam is cursing, it's the biggest brocha. When your enemy curses you. So since then, I'm considered a religious fanatic, which I am not, I'm sorry. But I'm glad, you know, to be called with this proud name. And then I was sent to serve. Finally, in the beginning, I got 15 years of imprisonment, trying to overtake the Russian airplane. Some 15 years of imprisonment of betraying my Russian motherland, and 7 years of imprisonment for my Jewish activities. But finally, American jury, for the first time, got strongly up with this outcry, let my people go. And it is how whole started. So they softened all the penalties, and I got only 12 years of imprisonment. And then I got to know that the migration started. We opened the Iron Curtain. People start leaving Soviet Russia, and immediately after trial, I got to know that some 17,000 Jews got permission to leave. So I thought, okay, if so, if with me being in a prison, I help other people became free, I am ready to sit in a prison as much as needed. And Ribbon Shalom, in this case as well, heard my prayer, and he kept me in a prison for 11 years. So it was not being in prison, it was life. For still, I met their Jewish boys. I taught him to behave Jewish. I was punished for them. It's a long story, there's another 150 pages in it. But anyway, what happened, I spent 11 years in a Russian prison, in labor camp, and I felt exhausted. I told, I know that you can deserve to be in Eretz Israel if you sacrifice. Eretz Israel niknet b'yisurim. And then I thought, Eretz Israel is Aleph Yud, 11, right? Aleph Yud. And I spent 11 years in a prison. I got recently an 11th grandchild, so it's come together. It was on Shavuos, David. So anyway, I thought, maybe with my 11 years of imprisonment, I deserved to be in Yud Aleph, Eretz Yisrael. And things happened, you know. Like less than a month after my prayer, I was sent to Moscow, to the central prison of KGB, and they announced me that they canceled my Russian citizenship because of my bad behavior, that they would say, you don't deserve to be any more Soviet citizen. It is bad behavior. And they sent me directly from the prison to the airport. And before leaving Russia, I talked to the cardinal that escorted me to the airport, and I told him, see, Colonel, you arrested us some 11 years ago to prevent us to go to Israel. And I was aware that at that time already some 300,000 Jews got permission to leave. So what's missing? What number is missing to 300,000? 300,000 more. Shishim Ribo, right? So I told him, you have to let everybody go. If not, your empire will collapse. And you know that it did collapse. It was my cursing them for whatever they did for our nation. But the colonel was taking it in earnest. And he told me, you know, we never could believe that you have this strong will of you. Which meant that I am a hero? Not at all, you know. Do I look like a hero? Not at all. It is not my will. As we say in Hebrew, Ein davar ha'omed bifnei haratzon. Right? What means haratzon? It is not simply ratzon. It is haratzon. Something very certain is the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu is willing to be us good Jews. And somebody that will prevent us from being good Jews, nothing will stand against him. He will crash. And Am Israel, Chai forever. Thank you.
We want to thank Rabbi Mendelovich for sharing his very inspiring story. We've got 5 minutes.
A part of it.
A part of it. We're going to take some questions. Afterwards, if anyone would like to order Rabbi Mendelovich's book, we have some forms over here you can fill out. You can give to me, and then we'll definitely
give to the parents.
Yeah, we'll pass it on. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh.
How did you convince those other boys in prison to also become religious?
Oh, you know, it's the biggest joy to be a Jew. As an example, I met, when I arrived from interrogation and a trial to the labor camp, I met a Jewish boy that told me, you know, when I was arrested for my underground activities, his underground activities against the regime, for he would like just to improve it, to make it better, I decided anymore I will do anything for Russian nation. I would become a good Jew, and I decided to be an observant Jew. So teach me being a good Jew. And it's how, you know, it happened, you know. When you are in prison, you know, things, I don't wish you to go to the prison, but, you know, all kinds of hesitations are falling down, you know. You understand that when in prison, you are exposed to death and to life. And then you have the real meaning of being alive, which means to, you know, not just to be in life, to eat and to go to sleep and enjoy. You have to have a meaning in your life. And in prison you understand that the only meaning to think about your Jewishness. So, yes.
You said that everyone was assimilating in Russia, so what made you want to learn more about Judaism?
Oh, it is a whole process, you know, of development. You know, it's, you know, like a thesis I wrote to explain it. It's a process, you know. And, you know, as a matter of fact, I was maybe not the only one, but out of 3 million of Russian Jews, there was a small group that come up to this conclusion. So, you know, I am on mission. Ribbon Shalom decided upon me, put me on a mission, and I got his mission. So I cannot explain. Logically, you cannot explain why specifically me. But אני מודה לקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא בחר בי, ואני משתדל לעשות את השליחות שלו כמה שיותר טוב.
What inspired you to learn more about Judaism, and what made you so passionate about it?
You know, the moment you know something, you try to know more. And when you discover that it is interesting, you try to get even more and more information. And as more you study, the more interesting it becomes. And then, you know, understand, I was ignorant altogether. I was empty, you know. I looked to other goyim, they had no meaning in life. Their life was dull, studying, going to the school, to the university, working. And then all of a sudden, I discovered that this is a real joy in life to be Jewish. So if I like sweets, if I have sweets, I add more. If I have a joy in life, I would like to have more joy. Yes.
So you said your community wasn't religious when you were in Russia. Were you accepted by your community for pursuing Judaism?
See, to begin with, it was secretly. I wouldn't expose it openly. And then even within the framework of the underground organization, people would say, Yosef, what, you know, they were struggled as me for Jewish tradition. And then still they looked at me and told, what, you eat only matzah on Pesach, and you fast on Yom Kippur? How can you do it? You are a modern man, you know. It's real fanaticism, you know. So it was strange in their eyes, but they honored it somehow. I believe that outside, you know, I remember when I studied at university, one girl, a Latvian girl, come up and ask me, why you never go out with girlfriends? What, you are a Baptist? You know, you are a Christian? It looked really strange, you know. But my love, my girl was Eretz Israel. What to do?
I just want,
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I want you to tell them how you learned and why you learned English.
Oh, okay. It's, you know, it is a bad example how I learned English. For I wish you know better than me, Hebrew. Anyway, when in prison, we bribed the guards, and we got inside the jail 4 books, Oxford English. So I studied illegally English, for I understood that the time I will be out, I will have to tell the story to you. So it was on purpose. And also, you know, in Israel we speak Hebrew. So I come seldom to America, and then I have to remember all the words and expressions. Anyway, come to Israel, I will speak a good Hebrew.